I just finished the finale episode of Love is Blind, episode 12. And if I were to summarize that finale in one word, it would be lackluster, and potentially just a waste of time. The reunion, we end up seeing, spoilers ahead, we end up seeing two couples get married, one couple back out before they make it to wedding day, which thank God, because they shouldn't have done that there anyways. But this season was just a really hard watch. We left so much context out that we never really understood what was happening, the dynamic between couples. It was also a season where a lot of individuals were unfortunately hard to root for, and that also makes it hard to watch. But there were so many portions that I skipped through because, like, let's just get to the I do's. And unfortunately, I feel like they could just do a better job with their finale episode. So let's get into a couple of thoughts. First of all, I think that they should be able to plan their own weddings. And I also think that they should be able to plan their own bachelorette parties. The process already seems very disingenuous. Why not make it a little more authentic by letting them have some control over this very tumultuous situation in which they have very little control. Okay. So I would like to see that. The bachelorette parties are so boring. It's just a curated event to get sound bites for the producers, strap a body cam on them that's live streaming to production. I would much rather see them plan their own bachelor parties, whether that's going to the strip club or whatever, going out to the club. I want to see that stuff. You can still take your sound bites and your moments, but I would rather just have it feel less produced and less controlled. And same with the weddings. I feel like it's already hard enough that these contestants have to tell their real life family and friends, I'm doing this process, I'm going to get married, but then to not even have control over the decorations really, unless they do. And that's something that I would love to clarify. Now, as stated, this season has a lot of couples that don't make it to this day. Monica and Steven didn't make it. Hannah and Nick didn't make it. Marissa and Ramses call it at the beginning of the episode. And Marissa and Ramses, that scene felt a little bit voyeuristic. Okay. It was 15 minutes of watching Marissa cry and be upset, and also sort of take on the same opinion that Ramses had about herself. And that was heartbreaking, because Ramses is coming from the perspective of your energy is too much. I enjoyed it in the pods, but now it's just too much for me. And I'm sure that there's a lot of that conversation that we're not seeing because the dissipation of their relationship seems like it really started after the military conversation. And what ends up being is that they just aren't compatible. And I hate that he puts that on Marissa and the characteristics that are wrong with her, instead of him just saying things like, maybe like, I don't have the energy, I found out this about myself. But he very much centered Marissa and was very sort of critical of her. And it was very hard to watch her break down. It was hard to also watch her ask, are you sure? But that's the humanity of a breakup. Sometimes you say things that you look back and wonder, like, why was I so, and I don't want to use the word desperate. But like, why was I so like on my knees for this man? Like, why was I so down bad? I feel bad for Marissa. It also made me have more appreciation because I already didn't mind her mom's conversation. I'm going to be honest. A lot of people perceive that as being mean. I thought her mom was very direct. I think she knows that Marissa is a lover girl. I think she knows Marissa not puts on rose-colored glasses, but lives in that honeymoon stage and doesn't ask the hard questions of her partner, and gives a lot of grace. And I feel like her mom comes in as the defender, knowing that Marissa's heart is fragile. When she loves hard. So, and Marissa's mom was the first person that she called. Additionally, it's just so unfortunate that Ramses was the person who, it seems like, sort of ended this relationship, just because I don't know what word used, subjectively or objectively, but just from a viewer's standpoint, one would argue that Marissa has more reasons to be critical of Ramses and walk away, such as his standpoint on contraceptives and even just intimacy in general and being understanding. So I can imagine that being painful for her, that he was the one to break up when she herself had reasons to walk away. Fundamentally, they disagree with each other. I do think that Ramses's support for Palestine was an important conversation. I'm glad that was aired. I'm not going to take anything away from him on that. It's just the rest of the conversations we've seen from Ramses sort of prove excuse me, I'm sick. Sort of prove that like potentially you can be very progressive fundamentally and idealistically and still have misogynistic values towards women. Like that's still very much a possibility. So yeah, Marissa and Ramses, I felt bad for Marissa. I'm glad that they said no before the altar though, because I would just be distraught to watch her go through those emotions in front of 100 people. So at least they broke up. I hate Ramses acting like Marissa's making it harder on him for having her reaction that she did. Lots of questions on that relationship. So getting into the rest of it, Tyler and Ashley say I do. And it was just a little hard to buy into Tyler's emotional vulnerability given all that we know. Okay. And in case you're behind on things and in case you've missed things, there's been lots of discourse online surrounding Tyler, his children, claiming his children, his involvement, whether he was a donor, whether he was the father, like involved father. So there's been lots of discourse on that. Jessie Woo and Storytime with Rikki from TikTok did a panel together with the ex-wife of the mother of Tyler's children. So the mother of Tyler's children's name is Bri, spelled B-R-I, pronounced Bri. And I think it was Daeshon, but I'll check my notes. Her ex-wife, Bri's ex-wife, was the one who came on the panel. And she shared lots of information that was just even more concerning. And I'll add allegedly in here just to protect myself legally. But what it seemed like everything she's saying was very reasonable. It seems like everything she's saying was very traumatic. My heart goes out to her as I was watching, and I found myself open to believing all of it that she said. So I'm not going to imply that that's fact, but myself personally, it's my opinion that I believe her. Okay. And it's just hard to watch Tyler and Ashley's relationship and them say, I do, knowing all of the things that we know about Tyler now. I'll get into a couple of those things, but I'm mostly just worried for Ashley. I'm worried about her mental health. There's a lot of judgment online about Ashley staying in this relationship. We don't know the legality of if she has to stay in this relationship or at least not tell the public whether or not they're together or not together for an allotted amount of time. My heart goes out to her because she may have been massively deceived by somebody who she knew for 41 days and then got married to. And Ashley wanted somebody who she would stay with forever. She wanted this marriage thing to be a one-time thing. I also just feel empathy because, not that I do feel empathy. I'm an empathetic person, but I didn't particularly like the advice that Ashley got to stay, whether things are good or bad. Just because I think that for women, there are so many dangerous situations or just soul crushing situations that we shouldn't stay in. I do think that advice would be good for a man because men are statistically more likely to leave their wife when she gets sick, if she's terminally sick, when he has to take on the role of caretaker. If for some reason she's unable to conceive, even sometimes men walk away. Men are also just statistically higher levels of unfaithful. So like I feel like that would be arguably better, or leave when a woman puts on weight. There are so many things that we've heard that men are really more inclined to leave first. So I felt like that advice is a little misdirected, especially because she's known him 41 days. There could be a surmountable amount of evidence that she finds out. But he also kind of slipped in that he may not have had the best relationship with Ashley's mother, or that he may not have had the best treatment of women. So he perhaps could have been using this as like a justification for how he wishes that people would have stayed with him, or his regret for not being more committed in those relationships. Those are my very complex thoughts. Ashley's mother was beautiful. Ashley looked absolutely radiant. Her dress was stunning. Her makeup was flawless. Her hair was flawless. Every one of her bridesmaids was stunning. I thought that her mother was her sister because, I mean, Are we kidding? Are we kidding? You are absolutely gorgeous. So I'll say that Ashley looked stunning. Her vows were eloquent and beautiful, and women are just so we're just so, like I said, we're just so beautiful with both the way they say things and just she looked stunning. So they say I do. Like I said, I'm going to be praying for Ashley. I hope that her heart is kept safe during this process. And I hope that she's prioritizing her mental health. That's all the things that I hope. I also hope that we can hear from Ashley directly. I feel bad for the contestants and I feel bad for us as viewers that things are being dragged out as much as they are. There's really no reason that the reunion couldn't have aired at the same time as the wedding episodes. I think that it's stupid that we have to wait another week and then that's another week of either interviews coming out to spoil the reunion by like Nick Viall or like the one person they let them speak to. It's just annoying. It's just annoying. Okay. Now, second couple, Taylor and Garrett, their wedding was stunning as well. Once again, I wish they could have planned it. Both Garrett's mother came, which was a big deal, and Taylor's father came, and he was on camera, which is a big deal. I thought it was very cute that they got married on the 13th, and both sets of their parents did. Like, that's very sweet and a good way to honor them and include them in the ceremony. So I did like that aspect. Okay. 1 point for Gryffindor there. Overall, they're just very compatible. The most compatible couple that we have this season, arguably. They're very compatible. And Taylor is so likable and emotionally intelligent. The way she expresses herself with such compassion and grace, and Ashley does the same thing. These are two refined, what's another word besides eloquent? Elegant women. Okay. So their wedding was cute. Garrett slays with the long hair. I wish that he had that for his wedding day because I'm just not a fan of Garrett's short hair. The widow's peak is too severe. As someone with a widow's peak, I can relate. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's wedding day. Now, as far as the reunion, Rikki Valero on TikTok shared that there's going to be a moment where we find out that allegedly Nick was making comments about how Hannah was not his type and how he was not attracted to her, to possibly provide some context to Hannah's behavior. Does it explain it? No, but do I want to see what they're talking about? Yes. Is there a world where I could see that if Nick was immediately dehumanizing or invalidating of Hannah when he met her, that she would go into that attack mode? Yes. But I would have to see that, because it also seemed like she was very critical of him immediately. So it's you're unsure if that's in response to him or if that was just a very mutual thing. I'll add that I would love to interview Hannah. I think that there's been lots of talk about how Hannah is insecure, and maybe she is. However, I think that this is Hannah's personality. I think that people are projecting their beauty standards onto Hannah and kind of assuming that she's insecure. But I think that Hannah has always been mean. Like, I think she's always been that person. I think she's the queen bee of her friend group. Her friend group reminded me a lot of Micah's friend group from that season. And although Micah seemed a little bit nicer on Perfect Match, like, I'm still not a fan, to be honest. So we'll see what's in store for Hannah and Nick. Now, very quickly, I want to say it's been really hard for me to discuss all of this salacious information about Tyler. I feel very conflicted because I don't want to use my platform to ever assassinate someone's character, especially because when this first came out, I just wasn't sure what the situation was. It seemed very complicated. I also wasn't sure of the edit. I also don't want to use my platform as a white woman with privilege to ever, like I said, assassinate a Black man's character or come for them, especially with things that I don't know. So I felt very conflicted on speaking that, nor do I really want to make a point of my podcast or content exploiting Black pain and just using it as a moment of entertainment, because to me, it is not. Okay. So I want to have reverence for all of those things. Ashley's involved in this situation. Daeshon, the ex-wife, is involved in this situation. Bry is involved in this situation. The children are involved in this situation. There are so many more people who are affected and impacted other than just Tyler. So it's been really hard for me to cover any of this information. And that's not to say woe is me. That's talking about my morals and the comfortability I've had speaking on these things. Now, to continue, I listened to about an hour of Jessie Woo and Storytime with Rikki's panel interview with Daeshon. And she is the baby mom's ex-wife. Okay. And first of all, shout out to Storytime with Rikki for establishing that connection, setting up the interview. I wasn't prepared for how detailed it was. I also want to give a massive shout out to Jessie Woo, who I have been a fan of and have loved watching her interviews. But this is perhaps up there as one of my favorites because the empathy, the reverence for talking about sensitive topics, and the ability to transition so flawlessly while leaving space for someone's feelings, she just did an impeccable job because it was dark. I don't get pleasure out of listening to this. It's not like tea for me. Okay. This isn't something that I enjoy talking about. It sounds like a very complicated situations with a lot of layers that a lot of people were involved in. But to sort of wrap up some of the things discussed in case you missed it, and I do encourage you to go check out that interview so that you can watch for yourself. I believe that the mark time is about an hour and 8 minutes around when they start the panel interview. But, basically, it sounds like, let me just pull up my notebook. I'm like, I can't. And I'm sick. I'm sorry. Okay, it sounds like allegedly Tyler cheated on his ex-fiance every weekend, Friday through Sunday. Now there has been talk of Tyler's ex-fiance throughout Love is Blind. So that is the ex-fiance, not Bry, who made the 5-part video in the red shirt on Instagram. Completely different person. I also want to point out that Daeshon, and I'm going to jump around here, she did say that as far as the child support issue, that's been an issue ongoing. So she believes Bry saying that he's not paying because that's always been an issue since she remembers being involved in this situation. Okay. Why she's not involved in this situation, we'll get to in a moment. Okay. So allegedly, Tyler was cheating on his ex-fiance every weekend. Also, it seems like there was some encouragement from Tyler and Bry for the ex-wife Daeshon to become close to his ex-fiance. I'm not sure what the purpose is, whether they just wanted everybody to be friends and bad with boundaries, or whether it was sort of to serve as a mediator for information. I really couldn't pick up, nor was it implied. And nor does Daeshon want to make this her and Bry's story, as this was just to clarify some of the things that were being thrown out there about her in the process of talking about Tyler and his past. We get into some crazy stuff, okay? Because allegedly a guy friend in their friend group liked cuckolds, okay? And he liked his wife being intimate with other men in front of him, and he would watch. And from the way that it sounds, allegedly Tyler was involved in this. I'm assuming he was one of the friends who came over and participated in being intimate with the wife in front of the husband. That's what it sounds like. Like he was one of the chosen ones. But it also kind of sounds like Daeshon said that Bry may have had some involvement in these threesome parties. Is it not sounding a little mom talk over here? What's happening? Military talk? Like, what is this? But I guess it was, for the record, not when he was in the military. So I do want to note that. Okay. This Bry's videos was the first time that Daeshon knew the twins weren't hers. And we'll get to that because I have some confusion on that, to which I may need to go back and just refresh my memory. The relationship with Bry was, trigger warning, abusive. That's allegedly. Okay. She alleges that it was physically abusive, and not just with her, but that Bry has a history of multiple relationships where she treated them this way. Bry also wanted to have 2 kids by 30. So that's why they were trying to have children. And because it is an abusive relationship, Daeshon really felt like there was little to no say on her side. Because she is married and she is a lesbian, Daeshon would like to have no man involved in this, no male involved in this process. However, she was aware that her ex-wife had some issues with her sexuality, not issues, but identity conflictions. But also her ex-wife, Bry, said she was a lesbian. So she's thinking there's no reason for a man to be involved. Yet Bry contested that and insisted on a man being involved. And there was two friends who offered, they chose Tyler. Okay. Who knows who had more say in that? Because again, this is not an equal power relationship. Now, Daeshon says that they could have used a donor and gone the traditional route. And, like financially, that was something at the time that they could have afforded, but Bry specifically did not want to do that. So what ended up happening was Tyler was chosen, and the first two times he gave his sample in a cup. It didn't work. They tested negative. 2 months later, Daeshon goes out of town, and when she returns, it's a positive pregnancy test. Now, the timing, she said it's not possible to be from the sessions that they did with Tyler, with his specimen upstairs, at when she said she was pregnant and having a positive test. So she thinks that even though Bry claims that they had an extra contraceptive machine, one of those stork things, like a turkey baster that her and Tyler used, she believes in her heart that they did it naturally, okay, that it had hooked up together. So Tyler was supposed to be the uncle, not supposed to be involved as a parental figure. And in fact, it is Daeshon's name who is on the birth certificate of Cairo, their firstborn son, which we think now and she thinks now is from the two of them conceiving together and not something that she was a part of as she was supposed to be. Okay. Tyler comes over and allegedly Tyler makes a comment to Daeshon and Bry where he is making it sound like he's going to have a lot more involvement with this child than he is supposed to. This tips Daeshon off and she's like, "What? You're not going to be the father. And, just so you know, we will love our child regardless." And Tyler allegedly made a comment about, well, if he's gay, just know that he'll come up to you and be like, "Why is Uncle Ty hitting me in the chest?" And it was homophobic. It was very homophobic. And so Daeshon was offended and asked him to leave, but it's also just shocking that he would say that. That's not the Tyler that we were presented on Love is Blind. This conditional love. You talk about building a future family with laughter and love and people surrounding you. And then that's opposite. Okay. That's a very conditional love. So she alleges, Daeshon says that when Bry made the allegations that she left her before Cairo was born, she makes it sound like she just left her randomly. No mention of cheating with Tyler, no mention of the physical abuse allegedly. And she also didn't leave. She was simply on a trip. She was on a trip and flew home for the birth. Now, when they divorced, Bry lied and said that her sister was living with her, but Tyler ended up living with her. And basically, Bry and Tyler teamed up for custody of Cairo. And mind you, like we said, Daeshon's name is on the birth certificate because the two of them were married and trying to have a child together. And Tyler joined forces with Bry allegedly for custody. And now she is completely out of the situation, denied parental rights, denied from seeing her son that they were trying to have together. It's an absolute mess. Like I said, it doesn't bring me any pleasure to talk about that because it just seems very seated. I find it absolutely horrible that Daeshon had to go through all of this. My heart goes out to her a million times over. And I'm just going to be waiting to see what happens at the reunion and what they say, what Ashley and Tyler say themselves after this is over. That's all my feelings on Love is Blind. We'll be staying tuned until the reunion for then. I hope that everybody enjoyed this brief episode. I tried to get through absolutely everything. That's all the things that I can think of. Like I said, they're going to try to have a cuties moment at the reunion with Nick and Hannah. Let's see how that goes over. If you liked this video, make sure to comment and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to leave me a 5-star review because I did all this while sick. Love you guys. Have an amazing day.